Leanne Caldwell. Yamiche, I'll begin with you. The outline for us. If you can outline for us, what is the latest in this proposal, the American Families Plan, and how is the White House planning, again, on offsetting the costs of it?
Right now, the White House is still leaning in on the idea that they want to really raise funds for this by using taxes on wealthy corporations. That being said, there is a real sense of talking to White House officials that they're very open to trying to figure out how to change it. And as you can see in the Senate, you have senators like Joe Manchin, who of course has been critical because the Senate is so close. He's been saying that he wants it to get 25% corporate tax rate. The White House, of course, initially proposed a 28% corporate tax rate. The other thing to note is that while the White House is having conversations with Republicans, having bipartisan meetings in the Oval Office, they are leaning into the idea that they want to make sure that infrastructure is not just roads and bridges, something that the Republicans, of course, have pointed to and said that they are trying to add so much to this bill. But they say it has to be about living wages. It has to be about helping healthcare workers, helping communities, understanding equality, and trying to remedy some of the systemic racism in our country. So what we see here is still a push and pull. And this really doesn't look like there's a final package yet. They're looking at Memorial Day as really being the deadline before they decide whether or not Democrats want to go it alone or continue to try to work to get some Republican support.
Leanne, Republicans always use the economy to attack Democrats, making the argument that the economy performs better under Republicans, regardless of whether that's actually grounded in fact or not. But have they made a mistake? Have Republicans made a mistake by overselling Biden having a negative impact on the economy? Has this lost them any credibility arguing against his economic plans?
Well, it has definitely with Democrats. Democrats think that the Republicans have no credibility when it comes to this issue. They point to the economy, saying that under the Trump administration, under the Republican tax cuts of 2017, the rich have gotten richer. The corporations have gotten richer. But the thing that matters most as far as credibility is concerned is where the American people land. And polls are suggesting that Americans are not opposed to increasing taxes on corporations and on the wealthy. And that is pretty significant, especially when Americans think that they're getting something out of it. They're pairing these tax increases with really a big restructuring of the economy to give middle and lower income people a more even playing field. And this seems, as far as polling is concerned at this moment, seems to be working for Democrats and the Biden administration.
Yamiche, as we mentioned, President Biden heading to Atlanta to mark the 100 days. Bloomberg writes that Biden's next 100 days look to be a little bit more turbulent than the first 100 days, with a looming immigration challenge, new coronavirus variants, vaccine hesitancy, the American Families Plan facing an uphill battle in Congress. How is the White House preparing for this next phase of the administration?
Well, they're preparing for this next phase of the administration by really not wanting to take a victory lap, but also wanting to talk about what they have accomplished, saying, look, we came in with this idea that we needed to get vaccines ramped up, that we needed to kind of get the country on a track so that we could get moving toward getting as many people vaccinated as possible, and that we've done that. The White House officials will say that they hit the goals, their goals and the marks that they set up for themselves. This next phase, as you just said, is a little bit more challenging because on the agenda is what? Policing reform, immigration, the economy, possibly gun reform. These are the things that have at times troubled administrations, Republican and Democrat, to really try to get something solid done on these issues. So in my conversations, I'm hearing from White House officials that a lot of this is about leaning in on President Biden's experience as a longtime senator and as a vice president to try to really lean in on having relationships with people so that he can get some of these bills passed and some of this information out there to the American people.
Leanne, let's talk about infrastructure really quickly. The White House press secretary responded to the Republican $568 billion infrastructure plan today. Watch this.
There was a Republican counter-proposal yesterday. The stage we're in now is we will have discussions. We'll get a full briefing. We expect those to happen through the course of the next several days. We'll review that plan. We'll ask questions at a staff level, and then the president will invite a number of those members down here to the White House.
So I guess the question that people have is this genuine? Is this serious? The $568 billion is only a fraction of the Democratic package, which is more than $2 trillion. Are there going to be serious negotiations, or is this going to be a repeat of the Recovery Act, which the White House pretty much dismissed right out of the gate?
It's different from the Recovery Act because, as you mentioned, the White House dismissed right away. Now they're at least entertaining. Perhaps it's just theater, or maybe they are actually serious about working with Republicans. We have to wait a little bit longer to determine that. But when the Republicans introduced their proposal yesterday, they gave it to the White House first. They reached out to their Democratic counterparts on their committees to let them know what the proposal was. They acknowledged that their proposal is not going to be signed into law, but they want it to be an opening offer, a discussion draft to try to get something together. Now, you mentioned the difference in the price tags. Well, they also define infrastructure much differently as well. They're talking just about transportation infrastructure. And if Democrats want to peel off the transportation infrastructure component of their proposal, then perhaps they could get to some sort of smaller agreement and then deal with all the human infrastructure later. Eamon.
All right, Leanne Caldwell, Yamiche Alcindor, thanks to the both of you on that front. And breaking news on the sentencing of Derek Chauvin, following his murder conviction in the death of George Floyd. Chauvin's sentencing has now been set for June 16th.